Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Scenes with Crew. I'm Pat Dennis, president of Street Level Strategy and the host for Behind the Scenes today. Street Level Strategy is the independent third party that operates the Crew program. So we ensure that there's an honest and direct bridge between you, drivers and couriers, and the leadership team at Uber. If you're not familiar, Uber Crew is a program where selected drivers and couriers work directly with leadership at Uber on things like developing new products, updates to the app, and improving the overall experience for drivers and couriers on the app. Last week, Uber introduced the winter release. That's a set of updates and new features across the app. So today, during Behind the Scenes, we're going to connect the dots just like we did last fall. So over the next hour, you're going to hear from crew members and product managers that worked together on a lot of these updates. So we'll get to see what that conversations were like, what the process was like, and really see how feedback turned into real action, real updates. If you joined us last fall, like I mentioned, for Only on Uber, our annual product release, and the behind the scenes, this is going to be super familiar. So to kick us off today, I'm joined by Sachin Kansal. He's the Chief Product Officer at Uber. In that role, it's a big job. He oversees the teams that really create everything on the app, all the updates and the products for virtually everybody that uses the app around the globe. So we're super excited to have Sachin. Welcome back.
Thank you, Pat, and so good to be back. I know last time you and I chatted in October when we had our fall release, so it's great to be back. I will say Uber Crew is one of my favorite initiatives that we have taken over the last several years. And this day is one of my favorites because you really get to see behind the scenes. It's not just about the what we ship and we build for drivers and courier, it's the how and the why. And for them to be able to see the tension and the conflict and the feedback, which ultimately results into a product, which I think is a much better product because we get your feedback incorporated into that right when we are in the process of building it. I think that's really value adding for us so that we can ship great products for you. And the theme that's very important for us as part of this is listening. And you can't just turn on and turn off listening. You can't just say, oh, I'm about to launch my product, so let me go talk to drivers and couriers, and then I'll stop listening. Listening is something that has to be continuous. It has to be ongoing, and that's what Uber Crew has enabled us to do, so that right when in the beginning, we have an idea, the team has an idea, they can get feedback. Then we develop the idea a little bit more, they can get more feedback. And then we've actually built the product and we can get some more feedback. So that continuous listening has become a true value for us, which we really treasure, and Uber Crew has really enabled that. And then coming to today and the winter release, we are very excited about some of the products that we are launching, including the new Uber Pro, new Uber Pro for Eats as well, the new earnings breakdown that's available in the app for drivers and couriers, as well as the new metrics and how we track the detailed metrics for couriers in the app. So all of those were built using feedback from the Uber Crew members, and something we're very excited to share today.
Amazing. So you hit the nail on the head. For Uber Crew, for the crew members, they're part of those early product testing, those early conversations, the tough conversations, that feedback. So for these products, for this winter release, tell us a little bit more about that. What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it applies to all the products that I mentioned. And you will see details of that. You'll hear details of every individual product as the product managers and the crew members come up on stage. And every single one of those, we got feedback that you're thinking about it the wrong way, or there are friction points that you need to consider. And we just incorporate a lot of that feedback as we built it. And I don't want to steal the team's thunder, and they will go through a lot of details. But as an example, how do we break down your earnings in the app? While that may seem simple, there's so much nuance in that, as drivers and couriers know really, really well, because they want to see their earnings which reflect their true work. They want, of course, you want to be paid fairly and you want to be paid for the effort, but also the level of transparency that we provide in the app, including what the customer paid, what we spent on promotions, what were the tips, how did that contribute to earnings. So every single piece of detail is super important. Look, these products cannot be built on a whiteboard. They have to build using feedback from real drivers and couriers who live this every single day. So that's what you're going to see with all the products that we'll discuss today.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. The winter release was really substantial, right? And it's only been a couple months since the fall release, the annual release. What's behind that? Why so fast? What does that mean to folks?
Well, for me, it's never fast enough. And I always tell the team that we need to do more. But I'm really glad that we are launching this set of products just a few months after the fall release. Now, we have hundreds of people, engineers, product managers, designers, people in operations who are working on products for drivers and couriers. It doesn't make sense for us to hold those back for one annual showcase and launch all of those products at that time. We want to be able to launch these products at a much faster cadence so we can drive value for drivers and couriers. So that's what today is about. We're going to be launching these products, and hopefully we'll continue in such cadence where we can launch products as fast as possible.
Okay, great. Well, let's kind of dive into it a little bit more. Today we're going to do a deep dive on the three products you mentioned, specifically Uber Pro, Eats Pro, and the weekly fare breakdown. But we're also going to hear some updates or improvements rather, right, on metrics for couriers and fairness on the courier side. Why those updates? What ties all those together?
I think there are a few themes that are common across all of them. Ultimately, it's about fairness, transparency, and just ease. We don't want them to have to go through a lot of work to be able to access this information. So if you look at the products that you just mentioned, if you look at the earnings breakdown, as we just discussed, every driver and courier should have quick access to be able to see the money that they took home, how exactly was that number constructed, all the way from what the customer paid to what Uber's commission was, to what was paid to third parties, to what came from tips, and we just want to make sure that that's always fair, that's always transparent. So that's one. When it comes to Uber Pro and Uber Eats Pro, that's about rewarding drivers and couriers for their consistent effort and work that they put in. And what you will see in the details of the products is how that is tracked day over day, and also how some of the benefits and the rewards are highlighted in their day-to-day as well. So there's a lot of detail when it comes to being able to track those things. And then metrics, whether it is ratings protections, whether it is tracking things like cancel rates and accept rates and so on. When we have products like Uber Pro and Uber Pro Eats, they are based on a lot of these metrics. So we need to make sure that these metrics are true reflection of the drivers and couriers' work and effort, and is not affected by some quirks of calculation or something that we may get wrong.
Yeah.
So, which is why it's very, very important for us to get these metrics right. So that's what it ties together, and the team will obviously go into a lot more detail.
Okay, very cool. Well, we're going to dive into it, right? So in the next few conversations, we're going to speak with crew members and the product managers that they worked with directly. So these folks worked on these three updates. And we're going to get, like I said, we're going to get a little peek behind the scenes. We're also going to hear from leadership from the product and engineering side at Uber. They're actually going to answer a few questions that were submitted by drivers and couriers from across the country. So going to be very interesting. Sachin, thanks for joining us and setting the stage. Good to see you again.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to kick off our first conversation today about Uber Pro. Uber Eats Pro's later. It's a program that I know a lot of you are familiar with, but it's going through some pretty big changes. So to walk us through what's new, what matters, what's changed, all that good stuff. We have Yad, a product manager who worked directly on this refresh, and Mordecai, crew member who collaborated on this and was in all these super interesting conversations in the product session. So to kick it off, I'd like to have you both introduce yourselves. Yad, if you could please start.
Hi everyone, I'm Yad. I'm a product manager for Uber Pro and Uber Eats Pro, which are reward programs for our drivers and couriers. And really excited to sit down today with Mordecai and Pat and give everyone a behind the scenes look at the new Uber Pro.
Awesome. Mordecai.
Mordecai, I'm happy to be here. I am been with Uber, or driving with Uber for a little over 5 years. I've driven in Southern California, Dallas, Texas, and now in Nashville, where I'm currently located. I've been a Diamond driver, and I really care about these programs because they directly affect how I plan my day and how I earn.
Great, thank you both for being here. So to just level set here, Yad, for people that are watching that might not be familiar, can you just explain Pro for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Uber Pro is a program that's really designed to reward drivers who go the extra mile and deliver great experiences to riders. So there's 4 tiers in the program: Blue, Gold, Platinum, and Diamond. And the higher your tier, the better your rewards. And to unlock a higher tier, there's 2 key factors you need to think about. The first is points, which you earn by completing trips. And the second is your key stats, like your acceptance rate, cancellation rate, and star rating from riders. And the idea is simple. If you are a reliable, high-quality driver, you get rewarded well for all the extra effort that you put in and for delivering that great service to riders.
Okay, that sounds great. So what's the refresh? How are we improving it?
So we kept hearing 2 consistent themes from drivers. Drivers kept telling us it's hard to qualify for a higher tier, especially if you're not driving every day. And they also told us they like the current rewards today, like savings on gas, car maintenance, and tuition, but they really wanted more rewards that impact their day-to-day experience and earnings. And our goal is always to be improving these programs. So we took this feedback, and last year we launched a separate pilot program called Advantage Mode. So if you accepted more trips, canceled less, and drove safely, just measured through the driving insight score, you would qualify to be in Advantage Mode. And if you're an Advantage Mode driver, you earn 5% more per trip on most trip types compared to Standard Mode driver. And the pilot did really well. Most Advantage Mode drivers ended up earning more per hour compared to the Standard Mode driver. But then the feedback we got was, well, now we have 2 programs, Uber Pro and Advantage Mode, and that's really confusing. And so that's why we are merging the 2 programs into the new and refreshed Uber Pro that gives drivers more earning opportunities, more flexibility, and just a better day-to-day experience. And this program started rolling out in select cities last month, and it's going to continue rolling out to more cities this month.
Okay, cool. Well, Mordecai, if you could weigh in on this, how did that impact you having the 2 different programs? And when you were in the sessions with Yad and the other crew members, what were the key things that you were trying to get across to them?
Pat, I really actually agreed with the direction. Every morning I open my email or get a piece of mail in the evening, and it's another company selling me a rewards program, right? And I wanted Uber Pro to feel as meaningful as getting a cup of coffee. And so what really, the biggest question for me is how do we make the rewards meaningful, right? Especially for top tier drivers, as we were saying. And really, that's when it made sense. We want the biggest rewards to show up where you spend the most amount of your time. And for us drivers, of course, that's in the app while we're driving. So we spent a lot of time talking about what really incentivizes drivers to make that grind and push for the next level. And when that grind starts feeling discouraging and like you're not going anywhere. So I think Uber Pro felt a bit unwieldy and a little bit more complicated than getting, say, a free cup of coffee. And so it was really nice to sit with Yad in the product sessions and talk about not only where we're clicking, where we're going, and what we're doing, but what actually motivates us. And that has been meaningful.
Very cool. I mean, Yad, can you react to that? How did hearing Mordecai and other folks talk about motivation, grind, how did that shape your thinking on this?
Yeah, so we're making 2 key changes to the program. The first change is we're making it easier to qualify. So for example, we're reducing the number of points that you need for Gold and Platinum in most cities, and you can go to your app and look at exactly what those requirements are in your city. And second, we're adding more rewards. And I'm excited to share a few examples of those today. So for example, you'll see a reward called Pro Perk. So in most cities, if you are a gold, platinum, or a diamond driver, you will earn 5% more per trip on UberX and most other trip types compared to Blue. There's also a reward called Priority Reserve, where platinum and diamond drivers are more likely to get reserved trip requests compared to Blue and Gold. So you just have more flexibility in how you want to plan your day. There's also airport queue priority. So diamond drivers will get placed at the front of the line and get priority matching at airport, so you can enter and exit the airport queue faster. And last example is the Uber One membership. So diamond drivers will get a free 3-month Uber One membership that you can use on your personal rides and personal Uber Eats orders. And these are just a few examples, and you'll see a lot more rewards when you check out the app.
Okay, very cool. I mean, Mordecai, what out of all these updates, these rewards, what's your top list? What jumped out at you the most?
You know, I say I've been a diamond driver for some time, and I actually recently lost that status, and that was pretty heartbreaking because it really is how I see myself on the program. You know, I spent a lot of time tracking my stats, looking at my rates and acceptance, and so to me that really affected how I saw myself. I see myself as a 5-star diamond driver on Uber Pro, and so I was really appreciative of these sessions because it really allowed the program now to feel really motivating, right? Like I'm excited to work towards diamond again because in particular in Nashville, we were talking about priority, our waiting lot is 15 minutes away without traffic. And so if you don't have that priority, you're getting sent 15 minutes there and back. And so if you're chasing airport rides or even showing up at the airport 2 or 3 times, that really ends up in a lot of hours of unpaid time. So these rewards are really meaningful.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
I mean, honestly, drivers want different things, right? We don't all necessarily want the same things, but we want the program to feel obtainable and achievable, right? And that's, for me personally, I'm an avid pro checker, so I'm in the app all the time. I care about daily stats and my points, and I'm the same way with my other rewards programs, right? I care about progress. That little cup of coffee or sandwich really makes a big deal when I'm taking a break. And so I was pretty surprised to find that a lot of my fellow crew members don't actually use the app a lot. They are in there a few times a week or a month, and maybe are in there only when they get a notification of pushing that they're to the next tier. And so I was disappointed, but I could see why. I think the older versions did feel a little bit unwieldy. And so now I think what I really pushed for in these product sessions was to flip the mindset, right? Like what motivates drivers and how do we get that across? And so I'm really proud of a couple things that we did. Number one, we inverted the progress tier tracker. So in the olden times, it used to count down from where you were, and now it actually counts up. So now as a group, we get to work towards something, work towards progress. And so that means a big deal for me, and just mentally and motivationally, right? And the other thing was really pushing to see more rewards on the day-to-day things that we do, not necessarily the retail style box discounts, but something, advantages on the trip requests or something of that nature. And so I think at the end of the day, if diamond is hard to obtain, that's okay, but it should feel achievable, like we work towards something. It shouldn't feel like you're taking 4 steps forward and 6 steps backwards. Yeah. And so I really enjoy that, and the Uber Pro program is really moving along there.
So that's pretty cool. So sounds like some really appealing new rewards, but also just updates to make it easier for you guys to access them too, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. Other than Mordecai and his amazing feedback, how else do you gather feedback to make these refreshes, these updates?
Yeah, we're always listening and taking feedback very seriously, and we do that through a lot of different channels. So we send out surveys, we look at support tickets, and we actually go out on the road to drive and deliver ourselves. But I will say personally for me, nothing beats sitting down with drivers like Mordecai and having these deep dive product sessions and having those back and forth conversations. So for example, with us merging the 2 programs into one and adding all these rewards, we needed a clear place in the app, to Mordecai's point, where drivers can learn how the program works, what they get at each tier, how do they move up to the next tier. So I had a lot of back and forth sessions with crew members, where we talked about everything from what words should we be using to describe these rewards so drivers can learn about them, to how do we best visually show you what stats you need to work on so you know exactly how to unlock the next tier. And at the end of the day, it's really these conversations with crew members and drivers that help us improve our products and that help us, create better experiences for drivers.
That's awesome. So Mordecai, what's the final assessment? What's your grade?
I really wanted Uber Pro, to the new program, to feel like a nice home makeover. Like you walk in, everything's still familiar, right? But you want to sit on your couch, look at your picture. It makes sense to go down the hall to that part of the house. And so I really enjoy that. And the goal really was to make Uber Pro something that drivers still recognize, but also something that feels worth striving for. And I'll be honest, in a large company, change is sometimes incremental and small, and we don't really get to see behind the scenes, which is why this is so wonderful, not only for drivers and product managers, but for everybody to be able to see a little bit what happens here. And that's, as we want the program to be something that's more than just cosmetic. And so I really pushed to find, what is it that motivates drivers, and let's put that into the program, whether it's for their motivation, their clarity, or just to figure out what's going on. And so I think we achieved that, because now when I open the app, it's not just about checking stats, it's about checking progress, right? And as I said, I want every driver to feel excited about going into the Uber Pro app, just as I am about getting a free cup of coffee or a sandwich, and it feels like we're heading in that direction.
That's really cool. I mean, it is really, I think, amazing and really interesting to hear how much thought goes into even, like what the things look like in the app, right? Yes. It's very cool. Thank you guys both for being here. Thanks for all your great work. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
We are going to stay on the theme of building and learning. And like I mentioned earlier, we're going to pivot over and take some questions from, again, these are questions that were submitted by drivers and couriers throughout the country. So the first question is going to be from Bobby in Miami, Florida, and it's going to be for Rathi. Question from Bobby is, how does Uber translate driver feedback into actual product changes? And can you show one recent change that happened specifically because drivers asked for it? Oh, apologies, there's a second part. Also, how does Uber test new driver app features with real drivers before wide release, and how can drivers opt into early testing? Rathi.
Hi everyone, I'm Aarti. I lead engineering for all things drivers and couriers. So Bobby, thank you for your question. This question really hits on the core of how we work every day. I mean, I lead the engineering team. We're looking for feedback. So from a perspective of what's a specific example, I'd like to talk about the women rider preference feature that we launched. Now, this ask came from our women riders, especially the riders that are drivers that are new to the platform. Obviously, safety concerns was a big barrier for them to be able to start using the platform. And so this feedback landed loud and clear, but we didn't just take the feedback and run with it. We met with a lot of the drivers on the road every day to understand what was needed. Not only that, we pressure tested a lot of our assumptions and what success would look like by conversations via feedback sessions with the drivers. Now that we had all of the specifics, we built this feature. And then again, didn't blast it out to a huge radius. We started with some few small cities so we can collect real-time data on how it was being adopted, what were some enhancements we needed. And as we kind of improved on the feature, and as we saw success, we began to scale and launch. So this is typically how we take feedback and build. And now for the second question, in terms of how you could be more involved, the one thing I'd like you to know is that as we launch features, we have a lot of instrumentation. Uber is very data-driven. We are learning constantly as you're using the app on how you're using, how you're engaging, why some changes are being seen, etc. Apart from that, you can also get involved by joining the Uber crew. We have feedback sessions that you can sign up for, or office hours. So keep the feedback coming. As an engineer, my team loves to hear from all of you who are actually on the road driving using the product. So we would love to build with you and not just for you. So excited, so please keep the feedback coming.
Great. Thank you, Rathi. All right, so now we're going to switch gears here to Uber Eats. As many of you know, delivering is very different. The pace is different, the economics are different, the realities are just different. So to help us unpack what's coming with the Uber Eats Pro refresh, I want to welcome Gavin. He's a product manager that helped lead some of the work on this refresh. And Jacqueline, crew member, who has actually been with crew since the very, very beginning. Welcome both, Gavin and Jacqueline. Just to kick it off, I'd like to, Jacqueline, if you could introduce yourself. Again, like I mentioned, I've known you for a long time. You've been on the crew program since the very, very beginning. You've been part of lots of exciting conversations and met lots of interesting people at Uber as well.
For sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a mom of 4 boys. That's kind of my motto. I'm a career. When I open the app, I'm here to make money. I have been with Uber Crew since the very beginning. It was 15 people, and now it's 75. So I did get to meet Dara at one of the first sessions in 2022. So Uber Crew does have plenty of outlets to reach out further than where you just start out. So with Uber Crew, my journey has been amazing. I can't ask for much more. I feel like my voice is definitely heard, and I get to see how the program evolves. I show up, I speak up, and I show what's working and what's not.
Cool. Well, amazing. Thanks for being with us. Gavin, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Gavin. I'm a product manager focused on Uber Eats Pro, and my team designs the program so that couriers are rewarded for delivering high-quality service to our customers. And what we mean by that is making sure food gets to them on time, making sure that only a small amount of trips are canceled, and also accepting trips that we send your way. And when we do that, we actually reward you. And it's interesting, or it's exciting to say that if you hit gold, we're going to make sure that you make more on an earnings per hour basis than someone who is at Uber Eats Pro Green. And then later, if you hit platinum, Jacqueline, we're going to make sure that you're making more on an earnings per hour basis versus someone who's gold. And these metrics and making sure that that story is true in the marketplace is something my team does and looks at every single day.
Okay. So just to dive into it, Jacqueline, can you right now the refresh on Uber Eats Pro right now, what's working, what's not?
Well, again, I like to speak up, so let me tell you, I like to hustle. Making money is important. Last month, I had over 450 points. 450 for someone that doesn't do it full time. That
pretty good.
Seems pretty
It's
extravagant. But I was still green. So when I say it hurt, green, because I worked so hard, I felt like I should do more than that. $3,000 in December, I felt like I particularly accepted what I could. But $5 for 15 miles wasn't acceptable. I didn't deserve that, so it wasn't happening. Other couriers are saying this as well. We don't want to take orders that are unacceptable. 25 miles for $5, it's not realistic. So you either protect your acceptance rating or you protect your money. And that's not a great feeling because you shouldn't have to choose between your realistic acceptance rating or like your financial stability with your family and upgrading your tier. The tension that we keep bringing back to Uber and the crew sessions that we have is how can we change this? Depending on what market you're in, whether you're in Louisville, New York, San Francisco, they're all different. Louisville is not New York.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to see that there's a difference, not just in one city, but we need to see it in different markets.
Sure.
Okay. So the program existed, but obviously you really interesting your experience. Gavin, I mean, what made you guys, what's behind the refresh? What's the motivation?
I mean, honestly, it's conversations like this one and that we have with crew and with Jacqueline. And Jacqueline, I want to kind of get back to something you said, which is, you're here to make money, and we totally get that. But at the same time, we also have a customer who's ordering a pizza. They want to get it hot and on time. They want to feed their family. And so the question becomes, how do we square these two things up? How do we align these goals? So the answer for us is actually consistency. And what we ask for in order to get ever larger rewards is to accept just a bit more. And I'm not saying everything, of course. But if we get you to accept a little more consistently and maintain strong ratings, that helps us deliver a great experience to the customer. And it's a place where we can reward you with a thing called preferred deliveries. And what preferred deliveries does is it makes sure that higher paying orders go to you versus others, and that helps you make more money. So really, if you boil it all down under Uber Eats Pro, what we're saying is you got to take about 1 out of 3 trips. Absolutely not everything. And if you do, we're going to make sure that we reward you with the high paying orders that you want.
Okay. Well, what do you think of that, Jacqueline? I mean, actually, specific question. Under this new update, would you, given the scenario you gave us, would you be gold under this?
I would be. If this would apply last month, I would be gold, not green. But it changes everything. I actually understand the strategy. It's to maximize the earnings. So consistency. So to me, it sounds like, hey, be more consistent and you'll earn more rewards. I like that. I feel like you're hearing us, but trying to negotiate a good balance with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned in your earlier comments about markets are different, right? And I think that's a huge thing for Eats. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
For sure. So deliveries in New York can't be treated like Louisville. They're definitely different aspects. Couriers have said, like in New York, they get 40 an hour. I may only get 10. So it's really important to meet those thresholds for each market in different areas. So green to gold or gold to platinum, they need to reflect what's going on in that market, not just as a whole.
Well, I mean, Gavin, how do you account for that? And is this reflected differently in different markets?
So like usual, Jacqueline has a great point. And we know that we can't build a program that works exactly the same in Louisville as it does in New York, as it does in San Francisco. So criteria and rewards are going to vary a little bit by market. But one thing is always going to be true, that if you're at home in Louisville and you earn Uber Eats Pro Gold, and you decide you want to visit San Francisco or New York or wherever, you get to take that gold status with you as you go. So that means that today, if you wanted to go do some deliveries in San Francisco and you were gold, you'd be able to use preferred deliveries and you get paid more. So it's an exciting way that the program works today.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Beyond earnings, though, Jacqueline, what other kinds of rewards are you looking for, you personally, but what do you hear from other couriers too?
Money. Money is definitely first and foremost. I mean, that's what
Fair.
we're here for.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we see appreciation with incentives, even something small, a drink, a $1.50 drink from a restaurant that we pick up, it helps. If not, then we're going to be taking the $1.50 out of the order that we just picked up. So it's kind of like you're not even trying to earn money. You're utilizing the money as you're trying to stay hydrated while you're working. So let's see some incentives. Like, I want to see something that shows us our appreciation as we're working.
I mean, Gavin, what are you thinking there?
I love this idea. I just want to point out that in some markets around the world, we actually have a deal where we will give a free drink every once in a while. So, like usual, it's a good idea, and it's not out of the realm of possibility, and we're going to look into it. But I do want to remind you and everybody, because I know you keep bringing up money, that one of the things we do is we do offer discounts on gas. So with Uber Pro Gold and the Uber Pro card, you can get about 6 to 7% back on each fill-up.
Okay. Well, what do you think? I mean, you just said, hey, we should get stuff like drinks or whatever. Gavin's right here on stage. We're like talking about solutions. How does that make you feel, Jacqueline?
Well, I speak for not just myself, but other crew members. That's what I'm here for. I applied as a crew member to speak up and speak out, and I feel like you're hearing us. You're taking our ideas openly and in consideration. It makes us feel heard. Even though it might not happen right now, I feel like I do hear it coming in the future. So when you say stuff like that, it makes us feel like we're not being shut down. And I say we because we're Uber crew, and I'm here to stand for everyone in that market area. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think this is really great because it's really what Uber Crew is all about, right? It's not, yes, it's about the updates, right, the refresh, but it's really this back and forth and hearing directly from couriers, drivers, whatever it may be, and you guys at Uber listening, learning, improving. So we really, really appreciate that. Super interesting conversation. Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna get back to some more driver and courier questions. The next question we're gonna take is from Wayne in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Niti's gonna answer this one. The question from Wayne, sometimes riders ask me how much I'm paid for the ride. I was surprised to find that I was not paid even 30% for their fare. This doesn't line up with the Uber breakdown report, but is this true? Niti.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Niti Bashambu. I'm responsible for the Uber driver app. Wayne, thank you for the question. First of all, I want to say I hear you. Earners come to earn, as Jacqueline was saying over and over, they come to make money, and we totally get that. That's why it's important for you to know how much money you are making on the platform. This is why we have launched this feature with the weekly fare breakdown, so that you can understand and see how much money you're making every single week. But comparing a single trip to the weekly amount is like comparing apples to apples. Apples to oranges. It's not a clear comparison. So it's important for you to think about what happens during the course of the week, right? As you know, no two trips on Uber are created equal. One trip might be heavily subsidized for the rider, which means we've paid out of our pocket a large amount of promotion to make sure that that trip happens in the first place. Maybe it's a late night trip in Tulsa, and it may not have happened had we not given a hefty a promotion to the rider. So we may lose money on that trip. Versus another trip, which is an airport trip, where the rider may have paid a lot because there's a lot of fees and taxes and tolls and airport charges, which are literally going to those third parties, and Uber is actually not making that much on those trips either. But to the naked eye, when you compare in a single trip to single trip, these may look very different. This is why the weekly fare breakdown is so important, because it can contextualize the whole basket of trips that happen over the course of the week. So you can understand exactly how much money you make and how much Uber keeps and how much goes towards those third-party fees and taxes. So we are totally, understand your question. We know that trust is where transparency is what causes trust, and we really need to earn your trust. As Sachin said, it's very important for you to understand how much money you make, and we get that, and this is why we have launched this feature. We hope that this experience helps you understand the money you make on a weekly basis, and we'll continue to work hard to improve the experience as much as we can. Thank you so much for the question again.
Amazing. Thank you, Niti. Oh, okay. All right. Next, we're going to keep moving on to our next topic, which is by far the clearest priority and the thing that's always on people's minds, especially for drivers, is earnings. So understanding what you earn is always a top priority. And last year, Uber launched the weekly fare breakdown in the app. So drivers could see and understand how fares break down, specifically how much does the customer's fare actually make it into your pocket, into earnings. But to help us understand how we've used feedback, or how Uber's used feedback to continue to improve the customer fare breakdown, we have a couple folks on stage here. We have first Whitney, product manager who's been working on these updates. Welcome, Whitney. And Ronnie, crew member who's in the product sessions, giving feedback and helping shape these updates over time. Yeah. So Whitney, if we could start with you, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Whitney, and I'm a product ops manager here at Uber. I've been in many roundtables with drivers, especially ones with Ronnie. And with his feedback, along with feedback from drivers all across the US, it's shaped what we're building on this fare breakdown and what we're going to be talking about today.
Amazing. Ronnie, thanks for being with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been working on with Whitney.
Well, I've been with driving as an Uber driver for a little over 7 years now, and I've been with Uber Crew for 3 years, and I'm proud to say that I'm part of the conversation, and I own businesses, so when I joined Uber, I took it on as another business.
Okay, very cool. Well, before we dive into the specific updates, Whitney, I want to focus the conversation a bit. So we throw around the word earnings a lot, but that's a big, broad category. Can you drill down for us? What does that mean when we talk about earnings?
Yeah, absolutely. So we originally created this screen because we kept hearing from drivers, like, this is still really hard to understand. Can you just tell me, what did the rider pay and where is it going? And that told us there's still a lot of confusion, especially around things like customer promotions, commercial auto insurance, third-party fees. And so it's not just about the earnings breakdown, it's about the whole picture. Like, where does every dollar go? So of what the rider paid, what went to Uber, third parties, commercial auto insurance, and ultimately the driver. And that really shaped our goal for this fare breakdown, which was no guessing, more clarity. And with that, we have some exciting new features that are launching in the app very soon.
Okay. Well, Ronnie, kicking it over to you. When you were in all these sessions, and this, as I understand it, this was over quite a few months.
Yeah.
A lot of conversations. When Whitney says no guessing, trying to make it way more straightforward, what does that mean to you?
Well, let me give you my background. So I've actually owned and sold businesses throughout my years in this world. And when I see these breakdowns that you have for me, it actually helps me run my business to the best of my ability, because I get to see the expenses that go along with that, like gas, insurance, things like that. And I need to know how much to set aside in order to make the costs at the end of the month.
Okay. I did watch the game tape on some of these product sessions, and one of you used a really great way to describe the current fare breakdown. You called it opaque.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
you expanded my vocabulary. But can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, okay. So opaque to me, it means that you can't really see through it. In my case, I couldn't find it. It was there, but it really wasn't there that I could see it. And before we have these sessions, the product managers actually asked us and the members how much of what the customer pays really goes to the drivers. And the results were actually all over the place. We had so many different answers, and the consensus was it was very unclear. So this leaves room for, well, I don't know, suspicion. And when your income is on the thing, suspicion is not an option. It actually creates stress. Well, what Uber did was they took these things that were hidden, like the fees and the breakdowns, the insurances, and et cetera, and they made it very visible. And when you got to see these things, they said, we'll send you a weekly breakdown so you can actually see everything front and center. And that actually took a lot of the guesswork out of your head. And so honestly, it made me feel at home, because for a company to take that, what was opaque, front and center, it made me feel like the company cared.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit. I think you said little when it was opaque, when it was confusing. Kind of, I think you used the word suspicion, but you talk to other drivers all the time.
Yeah.
What was the feeling about the confusion on that?
Wow. Well, you know what? If you don't understand what you're making, that creates a lot of tension. And as we talked about it in the session, a lot of drivers felt like they didn't have a full picture of what was going on. And this kind of fueled the perception that Uber was taking more than what they should have been doing. And there's a really big discrepancy in what we were actually making. That was a real risk, because when drivers don't feel like they got the full picture, trust starts to erode. And when you made it clear what the customer paid and what we made, the service fees and insurance and stuff like that, this took the edge off.
Okay.
And when that happened, you reduced a lot of stress for us, the drivers.
Makes a lot of sense. Whitney, how did you, hearing all this feedback when you were working on this refresh, how'd you take that back? What did you turn it into?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Ronnie mentioned, a lot of drivers are telling us still, I don't understand what the customer is paying and what I'm taking home. And frankly, the thing I care about most is what I'm taking home. and we absolutely hear you, so we made 3 big changes. The first one was putting your earnings, your take home, front and center. Second is adding tips, because we know how important tips are to your earnings. And lastly, putting what the customer paid, which is the customer fare minus any customer promotions that Uber provides. So with that, we're hoping that it's that much clearer to see your take home.
Okay, well, to take it a step further, Ronnie talked about it. It's obviously on people's minds. We talk about Ronnie's got costs, right? The driver's got costs. But what's Uber's end? What are their costs?
Yeah, thank you. I'd love the opportunity to set things straight because I think that there are a lot of confusion around this as well. There are 2 major areas. The first one is around commercial auto insurance, right? Drivers kept telling us, why am I double paying for insurance? I already pay for insurance. But the thing is, there are different types of insurance. The first one is your personal auto insurance, right? That covers you when you're driving on your own time, you're driving yourself. And then there's commercial auto insurance, which covers you when you are driving on a rideshare platform like Uber. And this is actually state mandated. So if you want to drive on any rideshare platform, you have to have this commercial auto insurance. And Uber automatically factors this into the rider fare.
Yep.
And so you're able to see this at the end of the week in your fare breakdown, exactly how much of the rider fare went to commercial auto insurance. So the second area of confusion is around all of these different kinds of costs, right? As you know, as an Uber driver, every trip is different. Every trip has different costs. Some trips have customer promotions, some trips have tolls, airport fees, and the amount Uber keeps changes on every trip.
Right.
And that's why the screen is so important, because it aggregates all of that and puts into a full picture. So at the end of the week, you know exactly how much you took home instead of having to look through every single trip.
That's super helpful because I think a lot of people probably don't realize, right, that how much goes in on the Uber side. Ronnie, does that line up with the way you think about it and what you know?
Yeah, actually, I didn't know all that, but now I know. It's how I think about my own costs, as I mentioned. I was down at the airport. I was sitting with, we were talking about how much Uber takes home and how much we take home. And
drivers,
yeah. And a lot of them said that Uber was taking home around 50% to 60%.
Oh wow!
I thought the same thing too. Well, I took Whitney's lead, and I actually started asking them, well, how much do you think Uber should take home? And a lot of them were saying, wow, they should only take like 15% or something like that. And I said, okay. So I pulled out my phone, right? And I went to the app and I showed the breakdown. So I took one of the trips out and I showed them. Boom, there it was, right? Clear as day. Math is math, right? So I actually showed them, and it showed that they took home 70%.
Oh wow!
19% went to Uber, and 11% actually went to others. And I mean, math is math, like I said, and numbers don't lie. The difference with these updates that go out on a weekly basis, they give us clarity, and with that clarity, it invites trust.
Very cool. So all these updates, like the fare breakdown, the weekly view, that summary, that's the percentages, that's all in this app view now?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We know drivers are busy, and so we put everything in one place so you can view it at a glance.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for that clarity. Ronnie, if you're talking to other drivers again, I mean, are you gonna share this with them?
Oh, absolutely. Go Uber. If I saw those guys again, I would actually show them that app to see that, look, these guys are showing everything up and center, right? People you could trust are people that you can work with long term. So they actually made it clear for me, and I really thank Uber for that.
That's great. Thanks so much, Whitney. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening and working on these really important updates. This is super exciting.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to pivot back to another question from a driver out in Connecticut, Jamal. This one's going to be for Jay. So Jamal's question is, what are some new ways the company is looking into to maximize earnings for drivers and couriers? Jay?
Great, thanks. Hey all, I'm Jay. I am the VP of Product for a lot of the earner experience that you guys deal with on a day-to-day basis, and for keeping you safe on the road. Thank you for this question, by the way. As many people have stated over and over again, earnings is why you come to this platform. It's our job to keep driving that up. The way we think about this problem is multidimensional. We think about it along 4 axes. First of all, how do we give you better guidance? The more information you have, the better decisions you can make on the road. That's why we invest heavily in tools like our delivery and rides heat maps. These give you near real-time visibility into where demand is at this moment, where it's going to come up in the near future. When you have clearer information and clearer signals about where to drive, you can reduce downtime and spend more time on trips making money. We have a lot more innovation and ideas coming up in this space. We want to give you as much information as we can to help you make great decisions and keep you busy. Now, you already heard Yad talk about the work we're doing on Uber Pro and Uber Eats Pro. We think you should be rewarded for providing great reliability and great service to our customers. And that's why we've created programs like Uber Pro and Uber Eats Pro. Drivers and couriers at high tiers can now earn more, 5% more on eligible trips through Uber Pro, along with priority access for higher paying deliveries for couriers through Uber Eats Pro. And there's lots of additional perks that are all designed to try to increase your earnings. The goal is simple. When you provide great service to your riders and delivery recipients, that effort should translate into meaningful financial upside. Third, we're expanding the ways in which you can earn on our platform. That includes new opportunities like catering setups. These typically involve large baskets and much higher payouts. We're doing pilots on things like digital tasks. These are completely new earning streams beyond our traditional trips and deliveries. We're constantly exploring how the platform can create more flexible earnings options for you over time. And finally, scale really does matter in this business. Uber has the largest rideshare network in the world and one of the strongest delivery networks in the world. That means more demand, more trip opportunities, and more ways for you to stay busy. At the end of the day, you all earn more when you're moving, and our network strength is a key part of this proposition. So when we talk about maximizing earnings, we're looking across all of these dimensions, giving you better information, giving you stronger rewards, giving you new opportunities, and giving you sustained demand. That combination is what's going to help our drivers and couriers succeed on our platform.
Great. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Okay, and up next, we got a really special update here. We're going to have Bree come on board. She's with the Uber events and venue operations team. And she's going to give us a really exciting update about what Uber's up to prepare for the upcoming World Cup. Bree.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brianna, and I'm on the event and venue operations team here at Uber. Today, I'm excited to walk you through Uber's plans for the 2026 FIFA World Cup and the role that drivers are going to play in their community. The World Cup is one of the largest events in the world. This summer, there will be more matches than ever before. Millions of fans are expected to attend the 16 host cities in cities like Miami, Kansas City, and New Jersey, where the final match will be held. During the World Cup, drivers will play a massive role in providing stress-free transportation to locals and visitors. Fans will be going to stadiums, watch parties, airports, hotels, and neighborhoods all across your city. Because we're expecting a higher demand for rides, we are expanding our referral campaign in key markets so you can earn a higher referral reward by inviting your friends and family to drive with Uber. We're also focused on ensuring that you have the right information in the driver app so that you can maximize earnings opportunities at stadiums and fan festivals. We have been working with host city committees and stadium partners, local officials to influence rideshare operations based on the data and based on the feedback that we've heard from you drivers. This includes having designated pickup and drop-off areas, improving traffic flow, and having comprehensive signage on the ground. At Uber, we will be updating in-app wayfinding for riders and drivers to help ensure there are safe and smooth trips. But here's the reality. No plan works without your input. We know that driving at large-scale events comes with unique challenges. We want your feedback about driving experiences or concerns that you may have while driving during World Cup matches this summer. Some of the things we want to know: if host cities could hear one thing directly from drivers, what should it be? What kind of issues do you anticipate that event and venue planners might not consider? What tools or in-app information would help you feel more confident while driving during World Cup matches? And what would make stadium pickups more efficient or attractive to you? Your feedback is critical and will help shape operational outcomes. We're inviting you to join Uber Crew office hours focused specifically on the 2026 World Cup. We're excited, and we hope you are too. Thank you.
Thank you, Bree, and thank you to all our panelists. That wraps up our behind the scenes. I want to do a special thank you to all the Uber product managers, the engineers, the folks that work really hard to make all these updates happen, and a special thanks to the crew members who are really dedicated to improving the driver app for all drivers and couriers. I also really want to thank Sachin for coming out, and all the executives who took questions from drivers. I think it's really great to hear directly from all you guys. As Bree mentioned, I do want to highlight this. In the coming weeks, we're going to kick off Uber Crew office hours. We really encourage you guys to sign up. This is a huge opportunity where drivers and couriers can connect directly with a crew member in a small session and share your feedback on a variety of topics. A couple of the topics that we're going to have in the upcoming office hours are some new features like each scheduling, and also, as Bree mentioned, World Cup, and how to start out on the app if you're brand new. So it's a great opportunity, again, a chance to share your direct feedback with the crew member. You saw how it actually gets turned into action through our process here at Uber Crew. So look out for invitations coming soon in the coming weeks. And again, thank you for joining.